17th of February 2024 at 2:36 p.m. in Berlin, Germany. Welcome once again to our cosmic journey, casting our chart in the startup universe. Designer Jake here with engineer Trey. Hello, Trey.
Hello, Jake.
We have been, a couple things. Number one, we have been dealing with audio issues in OBS, and that is incredibly frustrating to me. And I apologize to the viewer for the audio issues, but I don't know what to do about that. Number two, it's been a challenging week for me. Nothing to do really with work. It has to do with family stuff. I'm going to bring that up at the end, but just wanted to, like, this is not going to be a demo filled type of podcast today. I know that Trey has some stuff that he would like to talk about, and like we're going to talk about other stuff as well. But like for the most part, after we do Trey's check-in, essentially all I have is a rant about weaponizing data. And from there, just a personal note, is there anything else that we should be talking about today?
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the rings, sort of the difference between our approach with Cosmic in composing charts of sets of data and rings versus
we could talk a little bit about that. We could talk about one of the challenges about that for sure.
Although we could also save it for later too, because I think it's something it will be easier to parse and understand when there's more things to show in the application. Like pull up a natal chart and then do the transits, or pull up a natal chart and then pull up another natal chart and then do the transits, and sort of this sort of thing.
Yeah. We'll wing it. We'll just see how this goes.
Okay.
But first up then, of course, we then go to Trey with the check-in question. Trey, I'm ready for it.
Okay. Well, I originally wrote this as David Attenborough asking the question, but in case people didn't know who David Attenborough is, it could also just be like in the National Geographic episode covering the wild Jake in his environment. What does the narrator say to describe the warning signs that the Jake is about to strike?
Good question. I think this snake is a little bit more magical than probably a normal snake. And this snake, by the way, is keeping very quiet and telling everyone it's fine. That's when this snake is about to strike. And so I guess they say like Jake the snake, lying in the bushes, we can see that he is about to attack because he has told everyone it's fine and everything's fine, and has dismissed everyone from having any commentary on his life. And there he goes. Something like that. Yeah. Basically, my stress response, essentially what we're talking about is my stress response is like shut down myself, shut down other people, to be like, we're done. We can't talk about it. I got to move on. I'm working on that kind of thing because it's a form of aggressive passivity to just be like, no, it's fine, whatever. There's a better way to say that probably, which is like, I don't want to talk about this now. I will talk about it later. I love you. Leave me alone. That's what the Jake snake should
You're
say.
Great. Get away
You're
from
great,
me.
but please get away from me. What about you? What about what does Trey Snake look like?
Yeah, I think a long pause for sure is in the run up. But for me there is usually a fairly obvious physical thing because I'm Irish. My face gets really red when I get angry.
Oh yes. Trey's face gives away whatever's going on underneath for sure.
Yeah. The color of my face is like, well, like that could be too.
Yeah, it depends. Maybe a little bit of both. That's happened before, with us. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I was just going to say that the color of my face is very much like my dog's tail. It's like it gives away the internal the
Yeah,
internal state.
there is no monologue. Yeah, so there's no internals. It is all a face monologue or a tail monologue for our dog. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Nice. I appreciate that checking question. I wanted to just spend a little bit. We didn't get enough done this week to make any demos today. So
Let's reframe that.
Let's reframe that. There was a lot going on this week that prevented us from getting anything done to show for demos. And we decided to do this thing weekly, regardless of what happens. And so instead of talking about demo stuff, I was just going to take a little moment to kind of explain one of the things that I find incredibly annoying, and I guess annoying in this world, but like I've started seeing it in astrology. So I'm learning a lot of astrological techniques. I do that through watching other practitioners of astrology, mostly through YouTube, doing these techniques or talking about these techniques. And I will tell you that there is a certain thing that happens in astrology that is a human thing. I don't want to just pin this on astrology. That is that you have a point of view about this world, and it's very clear that you are manipulating the technique or the data in order to further that point of view, and not having something that feels a little bit more about like discovery and thought. And this happens not only with like, there was a podcast I was listening to that was talking about the astrology of music, and it was very clear to me that the people, the very well-meaning people, were cherry picking data to fit their narrative and not looking at things that might be more objective. But even in more harmful circumstances, there was a gentleman that I was watching. He was talking a little bit about like ingress charts, and okay, that's fine. I'm looking through his channel, and I see this one video that's about Mercury, and and all of a sudden we start talking about the woke mind virus, and we're talking about Mercury being transgendered, and there's a whole thing there that was obviously nothing about Mercury, nothing about Hermes, but really about this person's point of view. But they wanted to make very clear that the astrological conditions completely supported whatever point of view that they were going by. And it just, I gotta tell you, when someone weaponizes data like that, it's basically a you're dead to me type of moment. This is Jake the Snake going into like, yeah, it's fine. I'm going to turn over here and like go deal with somebody else. I don't know. Like, you have more time in astrology and working through astrological practice, specifically around magical practice. Like, what do you think? What's your experience been?
Oh yeah, I think that. Well, I would say it's also not just in sort of the space or the community of like occultists and practitioners where this kind of thing happens, right? Like it's sort of all over the place. Like 5G being the thing that turns people into lizard people or whatever. And it sort of finds its way in through. I think if somebody is looking for an outlet or a lens through which to kind of take their internal crazy and project it out into the world, there are plenty of options. And I think things like astrology can be actually a really good one, because it's a like many systems of divination, depending upon your approach, it can be this kind of like funhouse mirror that just projects back the sort of stuff that you're putting into it, right? Like, right. In a lot of ways, you get out of it what you put into it. And so we've both seen a fair amount of pretty crazy viewpoints, and I think it's also, for me, it's one of the things that makes it a little bit difficult to communicate to people who are maybe not into astrology or are very rooted in a materialist worldview, that we're doing this astrology startup, because I think it is relatively easy to sort of say like, oh, that's
That goes down a road that then ends to matching Nike high tops in purple Kool-Aid and
right, exactly.
in
Yeah, yeah,
people's
yeah.
minds. And we're like, no, 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 no. Like, people have been looking at the stars for 5,000 years in order to understand their place in this world, in this universe, and to give them easier tools, especially for enthusiast astrologers, to kind of learn about themselves, learn about their relationships through their relationships with the stars in their natal promise, is something that is valuable. You don't have to then say, and I'm combating the woke mind virus that somehow Hermes is bringing because like Mercury went retrograde or whatever this guy was talking about. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's always a little bit of a fine line. Like we were just talking to a German attorney about possibly setting up a GmbH here in Germany for Cosmic, as kind of like a German subsidiary of the U.S. entity. And when asked what we're doing, it was sort of this like, it's a B2C in the lifestyle space.
Yeah, exactly. He can see that our web address is like, it's jake@cosmic.plumbing. And I'm sure he's like, what's this then? Because, it's definitely weird for native English speakers, and for a German speaker, then it gets very strange, I think. But he was good natured about it.
Yeah.
That's the thing about
Yeah,
Germans.
yeah,
Once they kind of learn, they're like, oh, that's okay. Germans will try anything. And actually, some of the best literature about astrology, like the kind of current literature that is coming out today, and like there's a very good German magazine called Astrologie heute, which is difficult for me to read, but I kind of love reading it. So, Germans will try anything. I love it.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's the history of modern astrology has a lot of twists and turns and turning points that come from Germany.
Yeah.
For sure. But just as soon as, no matter what the cultural context, as soon as you say, yeah, it's astrology, then there's always this kind of like you can see it in people's faces of like there's an intro type. Oh, am I talking to like a QAnon?
Yeah. Maybe their face either goes like this or it goes like that. It never stays neutral because, and this is just something that I think you and I have always attracted in our lives. We don't seem to ever kind of fall in neutral places with people. Like it's always seemingly controversial for some silly reason to them. Anyways, yeah, just going back to this idea of kind of weaponizing data, just because, like we can talk about QAnon people and woke mind virus people, but this happens like all over the place, especially like this is one of the reasons why I really do not like product management, because there is a lack of discipline that happens within your analysis of data. If your job is to convince someone that the feature that you released is good, and you can manipulate data however you want in order to make a story look good, that it's customer centric, for example, to remove a cancel button. Very famously, many companies, many subscription companies have done this kind of thing, and they have shown that there's data behind it. But the thing is that there's always more data that you can uncover here that can make this all very murky. Your intuition, number two, your intuition is important as part of like the journey of, does this make sense? And number three, there's no way that you could even measure everything that matters in order to make these decisions. You don't know for this specific case, like the brand damage you're doing or the customer trust that you're breaking in these things. Anyways, all this to say, I get a little chuffed when we start talking about, wait, isn't chuffed? Sorry.
I was just going to ask you what this word is.
I think chuffed is proud in British English. I get a little chapped. I think so. Big questions will be marked for big questions right around the minute 14. I think I get a little chafed. Chaffed? Oh my God. It's either chafed, chaffed, or chuffed. I get a little chafed, I think, when I start seeing data as a weapon. Data is just a part of a tool set. And if what you are doing in your narrative is picking like cherry picking the data that fits your narrative, you should ask yourself, is this worthwhile? Is this useful? Am I actually going to deceive someone into believing something that is actually not true? Whether it is about woke mind viruses or the music of astrology, or whether or not that you should take away a customer's ability to stop paying you money in an easy way. Anyways.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's kind of like I was trying to think of like a really just pared back example, and it's kind of like saying I need money, and there's this building that's got a bunch of money in it, so I'm just going to go in there and grab a bunch of money. And it's like that's robbing a bank.
That's called robbing a bank.
That's called robbing a bank, and like you can definitely pare away the salient information to make robbing a bank sound like a decent idea. But does it match your moral compass? Like, is it the kind of thing that you want to do? And I think this is the thing that really gets lost in corporations these days, or maybe has always been the case, is that because the bottom line is the creation of value for shareholders, particularly when you're talking about public companies, then it's sort of like anything that it's like robbing a bank is fine, right? Because you're getting more money, and that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, it just the bank is your millions of customers. That's the bank.
Yeah, that's the bank, right? Yeah.
Now,
screwing your millions of customers or whatever.
Now you're sounding anti-capitalist, and let's be very clear. Trey and I are very much capitalists, socialist capitalists. Well, we could talk about that another day.
I do not identify as a capitalist.
Well, okay, your company does, so we have to talk about that. One thing that we forgot to do, and this is a fun thing, and this is also going to go into big questions, is that if I say a certain phrase, something is going to happen below this video to light up a button. And I'm going to say that thing right now. And I want you to look not at the video, but look below the video for me. I want you to smash that like button. And what should have happened is that we got a rainbow on the button. And I just thought that was actually really delightful. And I think actually it's YouTube making fun of people who say smash that like button.
Yeah, I remember you pointing this out, and I totally forgot.
And we're gonna see if it works. We're gonna see if it works on this one. It's worth a try. Right. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is just a personal note. You may have noticed that Trey and I are all in black, and not just because we live in Berlin, but because there was a big there was a big personal tragedy that happened in my life. Last week, probably a couple hours after we recorded our last video, I got word that my father had died. And he was 81 years old, and we're going to go back to the funeral in order to see him. But I wanted to just spend a moment to talk about him. This is not, maybe this is a eulogy. I'm not exactly sure, but I just wanted to, I guess thank him for giving me life and being a good dad. One of the things that was said in anger towards me one time when I didn't meet a promise, and it was from a family member. This is a long time ago. It was probably 20 or so years ago. And what this person had said was, you are your father's son. And they meant this to mean something around kind of flightiness or irresponsibility. And at the time, I was very upset by a family member saying that to me. But I hold that as a point of pride. I am proud to be my father's son because my father was a delightful man. He was a funny man. I am just like him in that I hold my convictions very strongly. I try to listen a little bit better than he did, but he's 81. That's kind of how it goes for folks like that. And I just wanted to say that I'm wherever dad is, wherever he ended up, wherever he is now, however your belief structure kind of lays out for that, just wanted to thank him for being my dad. And I, like I said, I'm very proud to be my father's son. And with that, what I'm going to say is happy Saturday, or whatever day you are watching this. I say this a lot, but I think it's more meaningful. Call your family, tell them that you love them, whether it's your biological family or the family of your choice, your chosen family, and have yourself a beautiful and wonderful Saturday, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.